Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me from all corners of the world. I have Googled some people, and it actually amazes me how far people are willing to go to learn. I admire those of you who have traveled a long way to learn something in this conference. I've been a lifetime learner, and I came here from Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. And, hear nobody from Vancouver? Okay, good. So I represent Vancouver chapter presidency for VRARA Association, the team that put this conference together. I'm also the co-chair of the retail committee globally, and I don't know if you're familiar. I'm assuming most of you are members of VRARA Association, so you're probably familiar with all the amazing committees we have. If you have not been checking out our retail committees, please do. The last session we put together, I don't think there was a retail brand that did not make it. So there was a lot of learnings actually shared, and it's online. So anyways, didn't want to advertise our committee, but I don't know why my slides aren't there. There's a volume on this. Anyway, so I'm also, in my day job, actually the Global Innovation Director for a company called Intergalactic Agency. I come from management consulting background, so I'm an ex-Ernst & Young senior advisor who then worked for a company called Unity Technologies. A lot of you guys may recognize, but it was a group called Finger Food Advanced Technology, now Unity Accelerated Solutions, so it's a lot of digital twin. So some of the use cases that I see today, we were doing, many, many years ago. So we had the first Packard truck design. I don't know if some of you may have seen it in HoloLens. So basically, you could design different designs of a car. This is not working. Oh, it's working. By seeing it in HoloLens. So you didn't. Traditionally, it was done with mud, and then we brought it into the digital twin space. Other things like creating a sales tool in HoloLens, creating stages for Cirque du Soleil, so before they go and they actually build the stage, they could plan everything. In my current company, we've done a lot of similar things, but a lot of it these days is pushing towards the, I think, non-variable ones, the web AR ones, the mobile experiences, so it's more accessible. So I wanted to actually walk you through some of these experiences. So this is some of the brands, obviously a handful of over 1,200 brands that we work with. But I want to walk through some of the reasoning coming from the management consulting background, and actually had Lululemon as my client 5 times over the last 10 years. So brands like Lululemon, or very, very successful brands, they're very familiar with BE. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar, but if you're not, it's a really interesting field of, I'll walk you through it. It's a very familiar, I think my slide went, okay, anyways, I skipped that slide. Basically, it's a field of, or it could be after this, actually, I may have jumped it. Basically, it's a field of neuroscience mixed with psychology mixed with economics. So you can actually predict human behavior before they actually do certain things. So you can design your, for example, Lululemon calls it guest experience, your sales campaigns, your marketing campaigns based on these tactics. So a recent article in Forbes that was published showed that sales increased, e-commerce sales increased by 200% just when the element of web AR was introduced to it. It also showed that the engagement with the brand went from 8 minutes to 30 seconds. So if you do the math, and then the question becomes then why? Why does, and this was the question actually I asked, this information is based on me talking to a lot of behavioral economics experts who I've worked with in the past, that we came up with these answers. So, this is the answer. I don't know why it's not going. My stock start is, okay. Maybe I should point it this way. Okay, yes. So, based on behavioral tactics, and I'm going to actually explain what, at the end you'll see the punchline, but basically, as I explained it, behavioral economics is a field mix of cognitive psychology, economics, and neuroscience. There's about 40 years of research done, so it's all scholar articles, you can Google it, and the assumption, actually, that humans are rational humans and we are always making our decision and we are very logical about it is wrong. B has proved that it's wrong, that most of our decisions are actually made when we have limited time, and we're very emotional, and it's based on our social norms and emotions and the immediate environment that we're in. I think actually the number is something like 90 to 10. So it's pretty, for a lot of people, it's pretty shocking. And the interesting thing about it is that these behaviors are predictable. Like if you're put in the same situation, we'll make the same decision over and over again. So a lot of brands, as I mentioned, are leveraging these information and science so that they can design something that actually relates to payment. So this is me, obviously, and an Oculus headset, but PwC did an experience, and actually did an experiment in their experience center, and they found out that people are more emotionally connected to VR content, and that actually the level of learning was different when they were using VR compared to when they weren't using VR. And so I wanted to explain why that is based on the BE concepts. I think my thing is low battery because... So it's actually called two principles, the endowment effect and the loss aversion. So the endowment effect is that emotional connection that you get with a product the moment you kind of build, like hold it in your hand physically or look at it and envision yourself in it. So what's been hypothesized and at this point kind of confirmed by people I know in the BE circle is that AR brings that endowment effect and people up, and it actually also causes loss aversion because you're actually imagining and imagining yourself in the product or with the product in your house. You know, sometimes you can put a furniture inside your house, so you're kind of emotionally attached to it. And so the loss aversion of like, what if I don't buy it, someone else buys it, it'll be sold out. It becomes a real feeling, and so that's how marketers and you know, as I mentioned, some of the brands are leveraging these principles. That's why that's why the AR technology and VR technology is different from other advanced technologies that we've been using, especially when it comes to engagement, sales, and marketing. So I wanted to show some of our work that I have done in the current agency. We work with Fortune 500 mainly, also some unicorn startups. So this was an example that we created both in Oculus, but also we did it in browser-based VR multiplayer. Why? Because we wanted to, the actual experience is for a mental health facility that's designed for youth that are at risk. And so we wanted to showcase the facility is so calming, so the kids could go and actually explore all the facility specifics, like the soundproofing or the furniture, and we did this all from scratch. So this was like somebody going in there, taking photos, and creating a 3D model. But we built it both in AR and, as I mentioned, in VR, so people could access it in website multiplayer way, but they could also go in the center and create a shared understanding. And examples of this is a lot. I'm sure you've heard a lot about this, but examples of this in healthcare is a lot for bringing stakeholders onto the same level playing field. So, for example, Stryker would showcase their big beds, medical beds, to physicians by creating a model in HoloLens and then showing it to them. So I'm going to go to the next one to showcase another example. And this is actually just a little bit bigger video. So as they're engaged, as we mentioned, they're engaged with, you have your customer's attention, or your person's attention, your employee's attention, and you can give them that, you can feed that information, and they'll learn it a little bit better and faster. This is my favorite. This is actually was done with Microsoft. They have been a recurring client. And so it was a Microsoft Minecraft activation in Australia in a retail store during COVID. So we created a web AR application where you just go and children would have this scavenger hunts. And so they would find these QR codes across the store and scan them, and then they would get discounts on Minecraft products. And the result was 250% increase in SKU sales. That's huge for anyone who's in sales and marketing that understand the impact. And it was so successful that we now, if some of you have attended some of the sessions about the role of AR in entertainment, that we are now working on Minecraft Village, so an actual entertainment center where children can go in there. This is just a video to show you how the experience looked like. As I mentioned, just a scavenger hunt. And they would get discounts, and then at the end they would claim it. And it also increased the sales, and it actually increased the sales for the store as well. There was a pilot because it was during COVID and everybody was scared to go actually spend time in the stores. But because of this experience, the sales were increased. The next one is what we did for Dell. So going to conferences and having booths may not be as exciting. So recognizing that, Dell wanted to do something different. So we created a VRARA experience where when you would go close to the Dell booth, you would get it was actually beacon-based as well, so you would get like a notification to go and look at this experience and learn about Dell products. So in that same, it actually increased the engagement based on numbers compared to the last 3 years by 3 times. So they had their parts in F1 McLaren racing car, they had it in their laptops, obviously, and they wanted to give that information to customers without boring them, without it coming across as a sales pitch. So they did that, and they were really happy. As I mentioned, the engagement was 3 times more. This is just to show you what the experience looked like. Stuck again. I'm not sure. Okay, so the next one is Montreal Mural Festival. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. If you're not Canadian, you might not be, but it's one of the world's top 10 largest urban festivals in the world. And so they wanted to do something different after the COVID. They wanted to, during COVID and after the COVID, they wanted to engage people in different ways. So we created a location-based application for them where when people, as they would walk through the park, their location would be found out in Google Cloud Anchors, and they knew exactly like what stone they're at, and it would show up an augmented reality art with the name of the artist and all that information. And it was so successful that, again, it went for 2 years back to back. And you will see like companies are doing this even for location-based retail engagement. So you could be in a store, and the store is experiential. So a lot of brands would have a whole experiential store division where all they do is like, how do we make this? I mean, a lot of you, if you have been to New York, you'll see the Starbucks flagship store where you would learn about the coffee beans and where they came from. So you get that information through that kind of AR art. And last couple of ones, this is an app we created for Inmarsat. So Inmarsat provides in-flight activities and engagement, and they wanted to talk to airlines. So the client was the airlines. They wanted to showcase to airlines why this is better, like what they're offering is better than just a booklet. So we created an experience of how Inmarsat is really kind of differentiated from the rest of the brands by providing an in-flight experience. So if you were an airline, you would become the flyer, and you would go into these 2 booths and experience what would happen in the flight. So this is just a video of it. I think visual is better than me just talking about it, but this is the experience as you would walk into these 2 booths. You would just, as a lot of you may know, that sometimes we need an anchor if you have an app. So you would have these physical anchors that look really awesome, and then you would go through how this was different. So they try to differentiate themselves by showcasing that, and they're not the only ones. We work with EY, for example, which repeatedly we've created experiences for them. How do they make their brand stand out, and in the mind of their clients and customer, be a different leader in the industry. So that's another thing. So City of Coquitlam, that's a city in, it's a village near city. It's an area that has not been developed, to put it fairly. And so city councilors wanted it to be developed because Vancouver has a housing issue. And so we created this experience inside their visitor centers where you walk in, and you had 2 options. One would be a screen where you could actually interact with it, and you could see what the city of the future will look like. So it was a digital twin. Or you could be a giant walking through the city of the future through your mobile app. And so it was on an app, sorry. It's in the mobile, but it's on the web AR experience. So you could walk in through the city of the future. And if you can think about the applications of this, from retail to real estate to all sorts of industries. This is just to showcase the mobile app experience. And so the last one I wanted to end with, we're working with one of the NASDAQ listed companies, and we are creating what I'd like to call the world's most comprehensive customer loyalty plan. So we started with strategy and all the way to creating a Web3 NFT marketplace by partnership with an existing NFT marketplace. And so we're creating NFTs where the NFTs can be dropped, and these are 3D NFTs, in location, so like in a store or online, so you can access your NFTs instead of going to an NFT marketplace where your NFTs is going to be among a bunch of other ones, which is a hype. This will be in location, so you have your customers' attention already, and you can leverage that for customer loyalty because coupons don't work anymore, or points you would get at stores. So this is the next generation, and as a lot of people before me, I heard them say, yes, it can be a hype, but if you leverage it correctly, it can actually help the brand. So I hope to connect with all of you. I wanted to wrap it here. If you have any questions from me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Sarah Ennis. And yeah, hope to connect with you. Thank you for listening.